Evolution Theory of the Hunter by Umlanpagoyawang. Read by Homebrew Audiobooks. Don't forget to subscribe for future releases. We hope you enjoy the show. Chapter 26. Learn it anyway. It's better than not having a skill at all. Then you really bought this for me to learn? You'll probably thank me later. Young Soa was lost in deep thought. This was a skill book worth a couple $1,000s. She was wrestling the idea of whether she should sell it or learn it. I'll learn it. So you've decided? Yeah. I'm sure there must be a reason why you want me to learn it, so I'll do it. Well, the skill that I learned is a level 0 too. Oh, didn't you say that you put it up on the market? It didn't sell. Then your physical ability must because of that skill. I got more upgrades than that. So you can get even more powerful? I nodded my head and she began digging into the backpack for the skill book. She brought out a thin paperback looking book and stared at me with a frown after looking at the weird words. What the heck? What language is this? I don't know either. It was the first time I ever saw anything like it when I saw it in mine. But when I just read it, it popped into my head. Even though I didn't know the meaning still. I see. Are all skill books like this? Nope. From what I hear, all the other skill books are written so people can understand it. But if you keep reading it, you'll learn it. Oh, wait, I remembered one thing. But she was in the zone and didn't hear me. I didn't want to break her concentration. If I broke it, the skill book might end up disappearing before she could fully gain the skill. Flash. A burst of light exploded out of the book. A moment later, I saw Young Soa's head collapsed into the empty ramen bowl. She must have fainted just like I had done. I passed out for about 10 days, the same would probably be true for her. This annoying girl. It would have been fine if it was just one day, but if she ended up missing for 10 days, her family would probably file for missing persons. The problem was, I didn't know where this girl lived. I tried to look through her phone, but there was a passcode on it. Arg. All I could do was wait for a call to come through. I cleaned off the remnant ramen soup off her face and placed her on the bed. Since she would be out for so long, I couldn't let her lay on the ground. I don't know if it was because she was so muscular, but she was pretty heavy for a girl. I cleaned up a bit and went on the internet. I wanted to see what happened with the irregular event from yesterday. But there was nothing out of the norm. There wasn't even one line of news referring to an irregular. Then that means it only happened at the Bakoanza dungeon? I guess it's not impossible. Because irregulars had appeared once in a blue moon before that incident. That one incident was the only time irregulars had popped up all over the country. It seems the Bakoanza irregular was an isolated one this time. But I still had some questions. Why did the irregular appear at the same time the level 0 skillbook did? If these two events happened independent of each other, I would have crossed it off as nothing out of the ordinary. But for them to happen at the same time, it couldn't be chance. Click. Click. I clicked the mouse while thinking. Level 0 skillbook. Irregular. What was the meaning of these two? I went into the hunter market. I went to check if there was anyone trying to sell a level 0 skillbook. No one. From my experience, it would seem that the drop probability of a level 0 skillbook were high. I mean, I had hunted just twice and both times I got a level 0 skillbook. Even if I had ridiculously good luck, there should have been at least one level 0 skillbook up on the market. Or maybe level 0 skillbooks drop only for me? Nah. It's probably all in my head. There were no calls for her over the next 10 days. I guess she was just as much of a loner as I was. Water. Soa drank a crapload of water as soon as she woke up. When she finished off an entire 2-liter bottle of water, she stared at me dumbly and said, "Hungry. Jesus." She finally seemed to get it together after eating a piece of bread and 2 ramens. Then she said to me, "Huh? Did I eat too much?" "Yes. You even ate my share." "I'm sorry. I'll make you food. It's fine. More than that, how do you feel?" Now that you ask, what happened? Last thing I remember is reading the skill book. You fell asleep while learning the skill. How long? 10 days. Didn't I tell you last time? That I fell asleep for days while learning my skill. You were telling the truth then? I thought you were making that up after ignoring my calls. I don't lie unless it makes me money. Wow. 10 days. She checked the time on her phone then suddenly whipped her head to face me. Did you by any chance do any naughty things to me while I was asleep? No, you should have. Don't think so little of my honor. You brat. Tap. Ow. Why'd you hit me? Be thankful I'm just letting you off with this. Anyway, you should check for your skill, no? There was no information on her new friendship skill. We just needed to find out if she actually got the skill properly by having her close her right eye. I just see 2 zeros. One is your level and one is your proficiency. Since you only have 2 numbers, it seems you don't get any reward points. Then could it be a skill you have to activate? I guess it could also be a passive skill. Explain please. I'm saying I don't know what it is. We need to figure it out slowly. Is it going to be useful though? You don't trust me? I trust you. Almost too much. She said this and followed up with a big sigh. Why is she sighing like that? Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Now that she was awake, I made a round of calls to all the members of the party. Even though they had all experienced the dangers of an irregular, all of them responded to my summons. Most likely none of them were able to find any other job and were doing nothing at home. We decided to go to Bakoanza dungeon once more. The deciding factor was because of the cheap admission fee and because we were used to it. We were a bit worried about an irregular appearing again, but you couldn't be a hunter without taking on that kind of a risk. That didn't mean we shouldn't be prepared. Just in case, I packed some chains and pepper bombs. The raid was going well. We fought against wolves, goblins, kobolds, and even ran into a rare slime monster. But everyone did their job, and every monster died easily against my blade, so we were getting through the dungeon fairly quickly. It's way easier than the last time we came. Glasses Girl nodded her head with a grin. I answered back. Thanks to Manager Kim doing so well. Who said I ever skimped on my job? Nah. It's not because of Manager Kim. It's thanks to our party head being so good at attacking. Cho Younggu said with a small smirk. Seeing that the ever-prideful Manager Kim didn't say anything to that, it seemed all of them thought I was pretty strong. My level up in focus helped in one other area aside from having stronger reflexes. I was able to fight and get rid of the enemy one by one before they could even start attacking. Since my fights all started with going up against one enemy and then the next, winning was that much easier. But even taking that out of consideration, there was something else that made my battles so ridiculously easy. I turned and looked to Young Soa. Could it be because of the friendship skill? I went to her and said, check your skill. It went up 1. Is it because of that? You mean the monster being weak? It might just be that we got stronger. Every single one of our party's abilities had increased. The one who got noticeably stronger was Glasses Girl. In the last raid, she was able to hit her mark 1 out of 4 times, but she was not able to hit 1 out of 3 times. You could say that she got better in the 10 days, but if that were possible then she wouldn't have been suffering all this time. From what I knew, she was a crappy archer for the longest time. Now that you mention it, I feel like I got a bit stronger. She said while she pointed to her bag. She had about 12 ores in her backpack. It was probably over 130 kilograms, but she didn't look like she was breaking a sweat at all. That could be true. A passive skill that increases the teammate's abilities, it's definitely a worthwhile skill. Oh, then shouldn't you give me more distribution money? I'll give you something extra from my share this time. Chapter 27. If Young Soa's friendship skill had really raised everyone's ability, then it was only right to acknowledge this in the contribution rankings. The only thing was, there was no way for us to really measure how much it helped. And the skill wasn't discussed with everyone at the start, so I would have to do the rankings normally this one time. Anyway, do you know how the skill activates? I'm not sure, but I think I might know. It's a weird feeling. Is a skill supposed to feel like that? Just because you learn a skill doesn't mean you discover everything about it instantly. Think about someone who gains a boxing skill. If you asked them to explain exactly how to punch and step in words, would they be able to explain it? No, because they just acquired the skill instantly without physically doing the work and uncovering it themselves. That makes sense. So they would need to do some tests. To learn how to punch, they need to test some punches. To learn how to dodge, they need to test evading a punch. Then everyone else learns their skills by testing it like this too? No, usually there is a known way to use the skill. It's been already 50 years since the first skill book appeared. Most skill books have a lot more of the same kind out there, so people usually already know how to activate or use it. So you're saying there isn't really a guideline for mine? There isn't one for mine either. Oh, feels like we hit some kind of jackpot or something. Let's get going, Han Junsok said as he got up. It seemed our break ran a little too long. We had finished clearing about half the dungeon in the left trail. We only have the right trail left to clear. We had packed everything up and were getting ready to continue when we heard a voice coming down from the entrance. Over there. Stop what you're doing and everyone come on out. Everyone looked in the direction the voice was coming from. We could now see someone in military uniform yelling and waving his arms about at us. I said, come out. You can't hear me? What? Why is someone not in our party in the dungeon? Half of the party looked at me, confused, while the other half frowned. This was the difference between the experienced and novices. Let's listen to what that man is saying. What? Why? We still have time left. Glasses Girl said. I could see why she was annoyed. Dungeons operate where each session is reserved at 4 hours. Since we were here, we could lay claim to remaining here until our time ran out. By normal procedure, this was true. By normal procedure. I waved my arms to let the military man know we understood. I saw him nod his head and disappear again. I faced the party members and tried explaining it to them after seeing their bafflement. There are a lot of instances where things like this happen in a dungeon. This is called a booking change, and booking change my butt. It's a ripoff. Jumping the queue is what it is. Young Soa said. Jumping the queue? So what it is there are people who are higher than us, waiting to come in. At Han Junsuk's answer, Manager Kim responded. So we have to leave then? Didn't we pay the normal admission fee? They do give us some of that back. But we can't expect anything more than that. Han Junsuk's face turned red in an instant. Wait, do they realize how much of a pain it is to get ready and come out all together for a raid? It's not as if we can come back anytime soon if we leave right now. So? Manager Kim said with a snort. I'm sorry? So what are you saying you're going to do about it? Are you going to go and tell them you won't leave? Of course. This is why amateurs are amateurs. Chet, aren't you being a bit rude? Rude? Am I saying anything wrong? Dungeons are operated by the government. I interrupted them just as they were about to go at each other. There are about 50 groups who can put pressure on the team that operates a dungeon, of which include entrepreneurs, lawmakers, and other senior officials of the ministry. Very rarely, sometimes a raid team could also have that kind of power. So, if someone with power wants to do a hunt, we just have to bow out like that? Han Junsuk still couldn't accept it. But I liked these kinds of people. People who rage against the unfair and unjust. If we wanted anything to change for the better, we needed more people like this. Yes. If we cause any problems over something like this, we could get blacklisted. That list is put up in their database and distributed to all dungeons. Soa finished. Then, at the very least, it would be hard for you to find any hunting jobs in all of South Korea. So they're saying, you people with no connections can just shut up and do as we say. Got it? Why do you keep taking their sides since the beginning? You think you're anything special? Han Junsuk asked. This bastard. Who said I've been taking their side? Let's get going. I tried to break it up and get everyone back on task. Any fighting can be continued outside. Since it came to it, it was better to leave earlier than later. Though it wasn't much, we were able to get some ores, so it wasn't a complete waste and we could always come back next time. We couldn't say we were losing out on too much because the dungeon operators would usually get us an earlier reservation slot for our troubles. As soon as we left the dungeon, we spied a couple youngsters standing by. They were probably mid-20s at the most. Surprisingly, I knew one of them. That person. Soa pulled on my arm cuffs. One of them was pretty big. He was one of the guys that had tried to violate Soa at the Anson dungeon. He recognized me as soon as I recognized him. I think his name was Park Jungba. He made a great big smile as he sauntered over to me. Perfect timing. Let's go have a talk. Huh? The girl from last time is here too? Ah, yes. Are the two of you going out? Park Jungba asked coyly. I started to wonder if there was something wrong with my memory. Then I wondered just how stupid these guys were. He wouldn't be smiling like that unless he were stupid or retarded. When I shrugged it off, he continued. The porter that was supposed to meet us here bailed on us. So why don't you porter for us a bit? If that girl over there comes, it would be even better. We're on our way from doing a round in the dungeon, so it would be difficult for us. Hey, don't be so stiff. Aren't we pals? If it's because of the incident from last time, I'll apologize. Honestly, we only did it because of Hansel, so don't take it so personally. I'm not a bad guy, really. And if we were to really be truthful, it's not like you were all perfect either. Don't you know that I almost died because of you? So let's just let bygones be bygones. What do you think? I thought it was just Song Hansel who was the crazy bastard, but it seems this guy had a few screws loose himself. How is it that he can be so self-absorbed? I almost got goosebumps when he complimented himself, saying how he's not a bad guy. I'm truly sorry. Maybe next time. Are you really going to be like this? More than that, aren't leisure parties against the law at this time? That? Don't worry. I got a memo saying it's fine. He was talking about a waiver that said that the country would not be liable if the signer died in the dungeon. We'll wait for you to finish with your other group. We only have 4 in our party, so if both you and the girl came, it would be just perfect. So we'll assume you'll be joining us and wait. We'll give you 30 minutes. This bastard was not going to let it go. If we keep insisting on not joining, it could really end up becoming more troublesome for me. Okay, plus I had something I wanted to try out. It could be really dangerous, so it might be better to try it out with these guys than my own party. We'll see. Chapter 28. After auctioning the ores, I finished up the contribution split. I gave Soa a bit more from my share and sent her home with everyone else. No use in having her come along. Park Jungba glanced behind me and said in an almost disappointed voice. You didn't bring that lady with you? She said she had a previous engagement, so I couldn't do anything but let her go. I guess nothing we can do. I wanted to compensate her well since that incident from last time and all. I will let her know that you were sorry. Nah, you don't need to do that. I was used to gauging people. A person can cover up a lie with pretty words and how they acted, but it was hard to lie with your eyes. I could tell from this guy's eyes that he was telling the truth. He was probably being honest when he said that he was sorry. But that didn't mean shit. A man who beats his wife probably regrets it too after the fact. Killers are known to cry over what they have done too. But if they were put into the same position again, would they truly act differently? Park Jungba was the type of person who could and would act on those same urges if given the opportunity. He might get hung up over it after he did it, but I'm sure after a couple days passes, he would feel just fine. I just needed to remember one truth. That guy had tried to kill me. It might be just a small hiccup in his life, but it was a big deal to me. Including me, the party was made up of 5 people. Park Jungba's abilities were not too spectacular. He did have some high defense armor that was a level 2, but his weapon and skill were both level 1. The rest of his crew were pretty much the same. After we entered the dungeon, I walked up to Park Jungba and asked him, "Why did you decide to do a general party? If you just waited a little bit longer, I'm sure they would have allowed leisure parties again." "What does it matter? A leisure party and a general party are the same thing, I guess." The difference between a general party and a leisure party was just the fact that one didn't have to sign a waiver and the other did. If you didn't want to sign the waiver, you had to prove that you had the skills and equipment to ensure you would be safe in the dungeon. In the case that you don't meet the requirements, you could also pay an additional fee to have them call on an extra person as security to help you through it safely. A general party didn't have such restrictions. Since general parties sign the waivers, the dungeon operators don't really pay too much attention to them, since they would not be held accountable for whatever happened. On the one hand, if you were strong enough, then that meant you would be able to clear a dungeon safely even in a general party. The only problem was, there were always outliers. The same applied for these guys. They were probably just thinking of me as a porter, so they were assuming they could clear the dungeon with just a 4-person crew. If nothing out of the ordinary happened, this would be true. Big if. 3 goblins appeared, signaling the start of our hunt. Park Jungba, a tanker, and 2 short-range attackers rushed forward. The remaining guy was probably a magic user. This guy raised a staff and yelled out, "Magic missile!" A blue light shot out from the end of that staff. Seeing as there were 3 streaks, it was a level 1 magic missile. Pow, pow, pow. All 3 bursts hit their mark. Caught unawares, they were struck down by the fierce and quick attacks. This was our chance. The cool time for a magic missile was short, about 30 seconds. There was a reason why it was considered a top skill among the level 1 skills. The battle went very smoothly from there. We had Park Jungba, who wore armor that was unpierceable by level 1 monsters, 2 close-range attackers, and the mage who threw out the magic missile. The monsters of the Baikoanza dungeon could not do anything against them. We were resting after they had cleared the entire dungeon in less than 2 hours. I say 2 hours, but the time it actually took to kill all the monsters, not including the walking time, was about 20 minutes. All I did was pick up the dropped ores and carry it in my bag. How many did we get? 21 in all. Not bad. If we were to auction it off, it would probably end up being about $20,000 after all the fees. Since there were only 4 in the party, each person could end up with about $5,000 each. This could be considered a pretty good haul. The danger level was pretty low and the return pretty high. This was exactly why hunter-grade equipment and skills were so darn expensive. I raised my head and stared up at the ceiling. But didn't we kill all the monsters? It seems so. Why? The dungeon isn't clearing. I raised a finger and pointed up. The dungeon was still dark. Ah, you're right. What the? Maybe. I trailed off. I could hear the blood draining from Park Jungba's face. Hey, get up right now. What's wrong? Why? Let's just rest a bit more. Stop yammering and get up. Can't you tell there's something wrong right now? What are you saying is wrong? Geez. The damn dungeon isn't clearing right now. It's an irregular. What the hell are you saying? Wasn't it you who said that this dungeon was safe? You said an irregular has never shown up here before. So why are you saying there's an irregular now? I don't know. We just need to get the hell out of here. Park Jungba's voice began to shake. He had faced an irregular before. It was understandable that he would be scared shitless, unlike these other guys who have never crossed one's path before. During the 10 days that Soa had been knocked out, there were some things I hypothesized. An irregular and the 0-level skillbook, the two had some kind of correlation. An irregular appears when a specific condition is satisfied. I tried to think back on all 3 times an irregular appeared and compared them. Then I compared it to the time I hunted with Eam Hyunjun's party when an irregular didn't appear. There were some similarities. Level 0 skillbook. Fast clear time. 5-person party. I wondered if an irregular would appear if the 3 conditions were satisfied again. Of course, this was all just speculation at this point. I could probably just shake it off as coincidence. But it could also not be mere coincidence either. I chose to believe the latter. The next thing I had to think about was what to do next to get out of here. But we also needed to establish if there really was an irregular. Let's start heading toward the entrance for now. I shouldered my backpack and got up. The rest of the group seemed like they still didn't understand the gravity of the situation. That is, until they saw the wolf boss blocking our way out. A wolf boss. Not bad. It could have been worse. We might have ended up facing the level 4 monster I faced when I made my first kill. I had been preparing myself for that. What is this? Isn't that a cave wolf? But why the heck is it so big? It's a dungeon boss. At my response, everyone stared at me. If it were any other situation, they probably would have told me to shut up and just do my portering, but it seemed they were desperate to have something to rely on at this perilous situation. You've seen it before? Park Jungba asked. I did. Once. Do you know how to kill it? Not sure. All I could remember is running like hell away from it. Shit. Useless. What did you expect from a porter? Let's start thinking of a plan to get out of here. Can't we just fight it? The mage asked. Against that? You might just be doing some spells behind us so you don't care, but we. It's impossible. Yeah, we have armor, but it won't last long against that thing. These guys have only fought against monsters smaller than themselves. They could not imagine fighting against a monster 2 times bigger and 2 times stronger than they were. When the atmosphere seemed ripe enough, I jumped in. There is one option. Everyone's face changed in an instant. What option is that? It's a little bit dangerous though. Anything's fine, so come out with it. At Park Jungba's words, I responded as if I had no choice but to say. This option would be the same one I had used that last time. Someone needs to lead the wolf into the left trail so the rest can run away. I don't think it would be too difficult. As soon as Park Jungba responded, everyone decided to put in their 2 cents too. True, but who's going to be the bait? I'm slow, so I can't. Maybe if we were up against a goblin or a kobold, but a wolf is way too fast. You weren't thinking of making a mage be the bait, were you? I can't because my armor is way too heavy. Everyone naturally turned to look at me. Park Jungba made a big smile and said, Yay. Didn't you say that you ran away from this kind of monster once before? Why don't you lead it away? We'll call for help as soon as we get out. Yay. That seems like it would be best. In trade, we'll give you all the ores in that bag. Seeing a great opportunity to use me as a scapegoat, they all circled around me to try and persuade me to be the bait. I almost laughed aloud because they were acting exactly as I had imagined. No, hope they would. Instead of answering, I stared at Park Jungba. He was holding my hand and saying with a soft voice, Please, you're the only one we can trust with this task. But it's too hard for me to bait that monster all by myself. I wouldn't be able to run too far from it, and I won't last even 10 seconds against it once it reaches me. I responded as if I were truly conflicted. I needed to play hard to get. Shit. Then what the hell do you want us to do? It's not as if we can do it. Park Jungba yelled out as he jumped up angrily. I pretended to be surprised and placed my finger on his lips. Please be more quiet. What will you do if the wolf decides to come after us this instant? Chet. He shut up with a frown at my words. These guys could die or live, and the choice was mine to make. Their lives were literally in the palm of my hand. Park Jungba said with a gloomy expression. I'll do whatever you want. Tell me, what is it that you need? Finally, what I was waiting for. I pretended to ponder of this for a bit and carefully said. To start, I need something to protect me against that monster's attacks. I said this as I glanced briefly at Park Jungba's armor. I could see his face immediately harden. That armor was probably about $500,000. I was curious. Would he give it to me? I don't want to die either. This bastard. Do you know how much this is? Shush. The wolf might hear us. Chet. He shut up again and sat down. I stared at Park Jungba as if I had all the time in the world. Asterisk 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 now. How much is your life worth to you? I wonder, hee. Chapter 29. Everyone waited for Park Jungba to respond with bated breath. I wonder how much time passed. He finally said, okay. But if you make it out alive, I'm going to get it back. I can't promise that. What? I'm risking my life to do this. I would only consider doing it with something like that in return. This bastard. Squeeze. Park Jungba grabbed a hold of my collar. When I stared back at him as if I didn't have a care in the world, his stare wavered a bit. This bastard. You bastard. Do you really want to die? Should I kill you right here and now? I guess that's one option. But if I die right now, who's going to be your bait? I pointed my chin at everyone. Everyone was staring at Park Jungba. If I die, then I'm sure they would all kill Park Jungba for ruining their only hope of survival. I was sure that their relationship was just as superficial as the one he had with Song Hansel. This meant that they would do what was best for themselves. They could care less about even Park Jungba if it meant they could live. Kook. The hand that was holding my collar began to shake. His other hand was wavering near his scabbard. I'm sure he wanted to stab and kill me right then and there. Of course I wouldn't be still if he really did draw his sword, but I highly doubt he would do something like that with his life in the balance. Then he finally let me go. Luckily he wasn't a total idiot. Shit. He took off his armor and handed it over to me. Seeing how his hand was still shaking quite a bit, he must have hated having to do this. I don't blame him. It's the same as just giving away $500,000. Satisfied? Hurry up and do your thing now. As soon as I put it on, Park Jungba got up and started poking me to hurry up. I only made a big smile and said, but I'm not done yet. What? If I have to fight it, Lord forbid, won't I need a weapon? You little shit. What the hell are you saying? Park Jungba couldn't take any more and was screaming at the top of his lungs. It was getting dangerous. At this noise level, the wolf was sure to hear. This time I got mad for real and said, do you all want to die? Is that it? What are you trying to do by yelling so loud? Shit. What else do you need? Didn't I just tell you? I pointed to the sword that Park Jungba was holding. From the looks of it, it didn't seem like anything special. Compared to the bloody sword, it was really just a general one-level sword. But it was still worth over 100,000. Park Jungba's face became red. Really red. This too? Yes. It's necessary. Hey. Just hand it over. It's better than dying, right? Seeing the situation being drawn out, his party tried to have him comply ASAP. These bastards. Just because it's not happening to you guys. What will it be? I urged him. Then finally, as if he had given up on it all, he handed over his sword. You better make it. You piece of shit. I could hear that he meant it. I took the sword and pulled out my phone. What is it now? I just want to record some things. I had zero faith in his word. I needed evidence. Asterisk asterisk asterisk, until the wolf enters the left trail, do not come out. No matter what sounds you hear, ignore it. Do you understand? Yay. We get it. After I had Park Jungba and his party go into the right trail, I handed over my specialty bomb made up of a mix of red and black peppers. What is this? Pepper bomb. This is for you since you gave me your armor and weapon. If I happen to mess up, this pepper bomb will save your life. Shit. If you run away or something, then I'm going to get you. Got it? How can I run away when it's blocking the exit? When I made an exasperated face, everyone else in the party tried to put in a word to appease me. Yay. Don't be so suspicious. That bastard is putting his life on the line, right? Later when we all get out, I'll reward you big time. If portering is too hard for you, I can even hire you at our company. Just ask. If you want it, I can make you a manager, no, a director even. Well, I'll just give you your own company. Is there anything else you need? I'll get you anything you want. Must be nice to have so much money. Don't worry. I will do my best and bait it so you can get out safely. As if making me director wasn't enough, they were even offering to give me my own company. How generous of them. Ha. There are so many good people in the world, so why is it such a shithole? As if. I shouldered my backpack and carefully walked towards the exit where the wolf was. Luckily, the wolf wasn't aware of us even after Park Jungba had screamed so many times. I could now see its head. I hid behind a nearby boulder, put down my back, and took inventory of my new equipment. Level 2 armor and a weapon. 1 level 1 weapon. 2 pepper bombs. Special high-strength 30-meter chain. This chain was used as a snow chain on the tires of vehicles over 1 ton. Unlike normal chains, it was relatively light and much stronger. I carefully unwound the chain and started to tie it on the stalactites. Since the last raid, I had prepared a scenario in case something like it ever happened again. I thought to myself, is there another way to take care of the wolf without having to run around like a crazy person? My solution was in the wolf's hugeness. It was 2 times the size of a normal human. I probably came up to its shoulder and it was probably 3 meters and 50 centimeters in length. Taking into account its sheer size, I could probably tie up the chains in a way to prevent it from being able to get out of a certain area. Of course, it could be strong enough to just break the chains. So I took that into account too. Its strength mainly comes from it being so big and heavy. The heaviest wolf is the Alaskan tundra wolf that weighs about 47 kilograms. If I were to use that as my reference point, then I'd have to say this boss wolf didn't weigh more than 200 kilograms. This chain should be enough. Phew. I dusted my hands off. I had cobwebbed the chains to block off the passageway. The biggest hole was probably about 1 meter. Because the chain was short, I couldn't do anything about that, but this would work. It was just big enough for me to easily slip through while it would be hard for the wolf to do so. I set my backpack behind the chains, put on the armor, and picked up Park Jungba's sword. It was just your run-of-the-mill longsword. But it was sharper than any man-made sword, so if you even placed a finger on it, you would have to go straight to the hospital. Phew. I made a light sigh and walked to the wolf. The wolf quickly got up from where it was laying and stared at me. I could see an almost madness in its red eyes. Its gray fur was almost standing straight up. Since I wasn't here to talk to a monster, I'll stop my observation of it here. Hey you, eat this. I yelled out and threw my pepper bomb at it. As soon as it was in the air, the wolf immediately bit at it of reflex. The bomb exploded in its mouth. I could see peppery smoke coming out of its mouth and nose. Seeing as how it was almost tripping over its own legs, I could call that phase a success. A moment later, after getting a hold of itself, it stepped out of the smoke. When I saw that it was in pounce position, I turned around and started running like hell. It was fast. It caught up right behind me in mere moments. But I wasn't slow either. In this terrain, the monster's speed and my speed were almost the same. I would make it to the area I had crisscrossed the chains at. When I looked back, I saw that it was only about 10 meters behind me now. I threw my body through the 1-meter hole. Luckily, I didn't get hung up and passed through safely without a hiccup. But the wolf, which was twice my size, didn't have the same luck. It got snagged in the cobweb of chains and could not untangle itself. Only its head was able to pass through the hole, and its shoulder was stuck. It started putting all its weight into trying to get unstuck. Though I did tie it up as tightly as I could, you never know what could happen if the monster kept shaking around like it was doing. I pulled out my bloody sword from my hip and slowly approached it. The dungeon boss bared its fangs and tried to bite at me. A barking dog isn't to be feared. Ah, was that not it? Oh well. Stab. Graawr. The wolf's cry could be heard ringing throughout the entire dungeon. You don't suppose everyone'll come running here after hearing that noise, do you? Because that would ruin everything. Chapter 30. The wolf could do nothing to stop the bloodsword from slurping up its blood. It kept baring its sharp fangs at me in anger and obvious duress, but the chain was even stronger than I had hoped. I wonder how many people knew there was such a simple and easy way to take care of a monster like this. I sure know I didn't until now. Stab, stab. Seeing the wolf trying to bite into the restraining chains, I took my new sword out and poked him a couple sides into his middle. Though I was sure now that he wasn't strong enough to break free of his bonds, I wanted to make sure he didn't snap them with his teeth. Better safe than sorry, because the cave wolves are known for their tremendous biting strength. Good not to underestimate that. When I kept stabbing at him with Park Jungba, oh excuse me, my sword, the wolf now tried to move backwards out of the hole, instead of through it. But there would be nowhere for it to go but to the mouth of the cave. I kept glancing at my watch, waiting for the time to run out. I recall that last time, it had taken about 2 minutes for my sword to drink up almost every last drop. Since I couldn't be sure, I decided it would be best to wait 5 minutes. Beep. The timer I had set for 5 minutes went off. I went through the chain and walked to the front and saw a collapsed mound that was the wolf. I pulled out a pepper bomb from my pocket and threw it at the heap. Even as the pepper smoke plumed into the air, I remained alert. Since it was a mixture of red pepper and black pepper, no matter how hard it tried to play dead, it would not be able to handle it. I think. Once I confirmed the wolf remained ever motionless, I held out my longsword and carefully padded forth. Ahem. I purposely cleared my throat loudly, but the wolf remained still. I kept my distance as far away from the monster as I could and reached over to try and poke at its eye with my sword. Grar. The wolf jumped towards me, jaws wide, as if it was waiting for just this moment. But I had been expecting it this whole time, so I kept my cool. I plunged my sword right into its open mouth. The wolf dropped to its side, throwing up black blood and shivering as it lay on the ground. That should do it. If it got up again this time, I would bet my life it wasn't a wolf but a damn zombie. Plus 1,000, finally. Those sweet green digits appeared above the monster's head. The same amount as last time. With this, I should have over 4,000 reward points in all. Now I knew what people meant when they said they felt full even without having eaten a thing. I felt content. I pulled out my bloody sword from the dead wolf's side. There was barely any blood seeping out of the wound, as expected, and there was now a black tint to the sword. Just how much blood did it drink for it to be so dark? Geez. I placed the bloody sword back on my hip and, before the monster could evaporate, I wiped off the longsword onto its fur. I needed to take care of this so I could sell it later. Unless it was broken or something, there was rarely any case where an item's value would depreciate, so I could expect 100,000 for this. As the wolf kept evaporating into dust, then into air, I walked over to the chains and started to collect them back into my backpack. I didn't think of recycling it again, but I didn't want to leave it behind for Park Jungba and his crew to see and learn my now new trick. Of course, those idiots wouldn't figure out what I used it for. But just in case. After cleaning up, I went back to the wolf. The wolf had dropped an item. What is this? I picked up the thing that dropped to the floor and examined it. It looked to be a roll of A4-sized papers tied with a string. I pulled on the string and unrolled the papers to check it out. Luckily, this time, I was able to read it. Escape. Okay, if I were to take the literal meaning of it, then maybe it was a way to escape this dungeon. I would guess that if I were to face a monster that was too ferocious, ripping up this paper would transport me to safety. Ha! I scored another jackpot, didn't I? It wasn't a weapon or a skill book, but, since I have a bad habit of always meeting irregulars, this would seem to be something that would be very useful. If you looked at it in one way, it might even be more valuable than a high-level equipment. And since there were 5 pieces of paper, that meant I could use it a total of 5 times. Wait, no. Now that I think about it, I would probably have to take into account each party member. As if I could escape by myself and ditch my party if an irregular shows up. I couldn't do that even if it meant my life. So I guess it was the same as having just a one-time use. And on top of that, if Young Soa ever decided to join us, then we would be one escape paper shy. That kind of sucks, but it's still a great haul. If anything, what made it even more valuable was the fact that this has never before appeared at the hunter's market. First the level 0 skill book and now this, something was up. The raids that had been happening without any change these past 50 years were now going through a lot in a short time. But I don't mind at all. For a person who's all the way at the bottom like me, things can only go up from here. As soon as I left the dungeon, my eyes met with an all too familiar silhouette. When she saw my face, she made a great big sigh. It was Young Soa. You're alive. Didn't I personally take you to the bus and send you off? I turned back around. I was worried. Why? I came too. Glasses Girl peeked out her head from behind Young Soa. I lightly raised my brows and said, You were definitely big for a girl. What are you saying? I'm a girl because I'm big. Young Soa yelled out as her face turned a red hue. I was talking about her size. Why is she talking about her boobs? I meant you're big boned. Quote. I meant you were big because I didn't even notice Bei Yangyang hiding behind you. Quote. Do you think I'm the type of guy who would look at a girl's breasts the moment I step out of a dungeon? So mean. Really. I should stop picking on her now. Glasses Girl said with a slightly red face too. Partyhead. But where did you get that armor? It was a gift. It seemed there was someone very generous in that party. At my words, Young Soa began to poke at the armor before saying, Wait, isn't this Park Jungba's? Yep. You're saying that bastard gave this to you? As a present? Some things happened. Anyway, let's go home. I'd rather not stick around and bump into them. Wait, talk while we walk. While we walk, I left the dungeon with Young Soa and Glasses Girl in tow. As we left the Baikoanza dungeon, I saw Han Junsok and Cho Youngdu waiting on standby. Geez. Them too? Han Junsok came forward first and said, I felt like you were trapped into a crappy situation, so I came back because I was worried. I thought I could maybe be at least a little help if something happened. I made him come. Junsok wanted to just leave, but I forced him to come back with me. Didn't I tell you not to say anything stupid? It seems I put an unnecessary burden on everyone. I couldn't get why these people I've only met 2 times cared at all about my well-being. Could this be the friendship skill at work? Or is it that they're masochists and like being in danger? I usually like to err on the side of caution and think of the worst case scenario. Maybe they thought I would keep them on board to breeze through dungeon clearings if they were nice to me. Who knows? But I decided to take their kindness at face value this time. Now that we were all together again, we decided to go get something to eat as a group. It was a relief that Manager Kim wasn't here. If he were, then we would probably all be forced to drink like hell again. Ha ha ha, you guys weren't thinking of drinking without me now, were you? Manager Kim appeared. Out of nowhere. Who the hell called Manager Kim? There was no way this man came all on his own. Glasses Girl raised her hand with a small smile. I thought since we were all here, it would be nice to include everyone. And so we were off to drink like no tomorrow. Again. Thanks a lot, Manager Kim. Chapter 31. The next day, after waking up with a mean hangover, I got out a piece of paper to write down my skill level, proficiency, and reward points. 0, 5, 5150, strength 50. Endurance 50. Reflexes 50. Total capacity 100. After 50%, it was reasonable to think the next level up would put me at 100%. It wasn't the multiplication of leveling up that I had initially thought, but I could live with this. I was determined to get each and every ability to its total capacity. I figured it the best idea to just focus on raising just one physical ability. It would probably help me more if I improved in all areas evenly. I was able to work on my strength and endurance at the neighborhood gym. As soon as I raised them both to 100%, I saw that 2,000 reward points had been deducted. Now I had 3,150 points left. I again worked on my strength. This time 1,500 points were deducted in trade for a 150% increase in strength. Simply, this meant I could carry a 500 kilograms backpack without breaking a sweat. With this kind of strength, I could probably bend rebar and crush concrete with my fists. 1,650 left. I decided I would use the rest towards increasing my reflexes. I called Young Soa and headed to the park. I waited 30 minutes until she finally appeared. The reflex exercise was the same as what we did the last time. Young Soa threw the balls and I dodged them. It was simple, but produced the necessary results. What are you going to do about Park Jungba? She asked while throwing the balls. What am I going to do? I'm sure he'll come after you to get his armor back. He should be thanking his lucky stars he made it out alive. Do you really think so? Hey, focus on throwing Thasi balls. I grabbed the ball flying toward me in one hand and said as I stretched out my hips. But it seemed she couldn't stop from worrying. Is it because of me? What? If you're being like this because of me, then you don't have to. Because if I think that you might get hurt because of me, I threw the ball at her. Yuke. What the hell? Wake up. Why would you think I'd put myself in danger for you? If you don't fix that bad habit of thinking that everything revolves around you, you'll end up getting scammed by someone someday real soon. So that's not it? And I did all of that for a good reason. And it's not like I'm going to run into any real problems anyway. What? I got this in trade for saving his life. I even recorded him on top of having a couple witnesses so he can't do anything to me legally. I just received what was rightly owed to me. Since I did what I needed to do, there was no reason for Park Jungba to come after me, really. If he ignores that and tries to forcefully take back the armor and sword, I'll just cross that bridge when I get to it. No, I actually wish he would. Because then I would have good reason to give him a well-deserved whooping. Well, if you say so. Then I'll be throwing again. But seriously, the ball she threw bounced off the wall with a nice sound. Yep, that's the speed I'm looking for. As we finished reflex training, Young Soa looked as if she would pass out from exhaustion. This was to be expected because the pitcher uses way more energy than someone who just has to evade the ball. On top of that, I already had my endurance at 100%. In any case, my reflexes were finally at 100. At this point, even without any equipment, I should be good enough by my new physical ability to easily kill level 1 monsters. Instead of cutting into their hides, I could just snap their necks or simply hit them to cause the necessary damage to go in for the fatal kill. If I had just 2 level 2 equipment on top of this, I should be able to clear a level 2 dungeon just fine. But I decided I would stick with my current party, at least for the time being. It wasn't because I had any sentimental feelings for them or anything, it was for the reward points. The weaker the party, the more chances I would have to make the kills myself and collect the points. Not only would I be able to get about 2,000 points for every dungeon we clear, if an irregular appears, then I'll be able to try out my new upgrades. I'm sure if I had to face a wolf boss head on without any tricks, I'd be able to do it easily with the help of my team. And if we ever get into a pickle, we had the escape scroll. Everyone else can use it while I run away. 9650. Alright. 650. I thought about what might be good to use this on, when I got an idea. Hey, hit me. What? Where? Anywhere. Minus the crotch area. What are you thinking? Just do what I tell you to do. Come on. I can't just hit you with my hand. She shook the hand holding a ball. Why don't I hit you with this? Aw. Yeah, sure. That could work. Here I go. Okay. Smack. She threw the ball right into my face. Hard. Are you alright? I'm fine. Keep doing it. Smack. Yuke. This time it hit my chin. Why the hell is she aiming for my face? Stop throwing it at just my face and throw it in other places too. Whatever. Well, I don't have anyone else I can ask to do this for me. We kept training just like this as people passing by stared at us with strange looks. I guess I must have looked a bit crazy standing there and letting myself get hit. Smack. And in the next instant, the balls weren't hitting as hard. I yelled out. Why are you throwing so softly? What? I'm not. I'm throwing super hard. Really? Wait a second. I closed my left eye and checked my stats. 0. 10,150, 500 points had been deducted. Yes. I did it because you told me to, but what the hell were we doing? You can't tell? Defense. I figured maybe I'll get stronger if I kept getting hit. Are you kidding me? You can do something like that too? I guess so. But it feels like it didn't upgrade as much as any of the other skills. Of course the pain did lessen. But humans have a weaker constitution than other living beings to start out with. Just because I increased my defense by 50%, I highly doubt that would be enough for me to have a strong enough body to not need any armor. I realized I needed to invest much more reward points into defense so that I can be as strong as if I were wearing at least a level 1 armor. This would take some time. Let's call it a day. Ha, you need to pay up a lot for today. It feels like my arm's just about to fall out of its socket. Be quiet. 100 is plenty for just working 2 hours. Chet. Scrooge. Let's start picking up the balls. Now that I was out of all my reward points, I needed to think of how to go on another raid. Since no one was hurt, we could technically go as early as tomorrow. And since we were bumped out of our reservation early, it should be fairly easy to get a spot. I guess I just need to contact everyone and see if they were up to it. Ring. While I was busy picking up the balls and planning the next raid in my head, my phone started ringing. When I checked the caller ID, it was Han Junsok. Why is he calling out of the blue? Hello, party head? Did you see the news just now? What is this all about? 10 minutes ago, all the level 1 dungeons in the country just disappeared. Everyone who happened to be in a dungeon at that time were transported out, so there were no casualties or missing persons, but it seems any raids would be all but impossible for us anytime soon. If all the level 1 dungeons disappeared, then it's not that it'll be impossible for us anytime soon, it'll be impossible for us forever, no? Well, we should monitor the situation for now, but what is going on? Han Junsok and Cho Younggu were just getting into the rhythm of being hunters, but they were still beginners. Their equipment and skills were both still at level 1. You could say that if the level 1 dungeons were truly gone, any chance of them doing any more raids were up in smoke. Like I said earlier, you needed level 2 equipment to clear a level 1 dungeon safely, and you needed level 3 equipment to clear a level 2 dungeon safely. Anything less meant you were flirting with death. Our team was only able to clear the level 1 dungeons, and just barely at that, because of my level 0 skill. A bit of an anomaly. I'll see if I can find out some more info on this and call you back. As soon as I hung up, Young Soa asked, "What were you talking about? What did you mean by all the level 1 dungeons are gone?" Exactly what I said. Let's head on home first. I went back to my place with Soa and turned on the computer. The internet was already in an uproar with this new turn of events. Because of the irregulars, raids had been reduced to nearly half its number, hurting our economy due to the lack of rare ores. Now that all the level 1 dungeons were just gone, things would become critical. Just what is going on? Chapter 32. The level 1 dungeons had all disappeared from our nation in one fell swoop. Does this make any sense? Young Soa asked incredulously after staring at the computer screen from beside me. It didn't make sense to me at all. Why would it disappear so suddenly after 50 years of staying right where it was? It is coming from left field, but since it happened, it's not like we can do anything to change it just because it doesn't make sense to us. Do you think that's the natural order? First irregulars appear, then all the dungeons disappear? Sunba Opa, are you saying that the two have something to do with one another? I mean, Doesn't it seem like too much of a coincidence? Irregulars suddenly popping up one after the other and level 0 skillbooks that no one has ever seen before appearing. Then out of nowhere the dungeons disappearing. There's no other way to explain all of this except that they have something to do with each other. What in the world do you think is going on? Who knows? It's not as if someone actually created the dungeons and is doing things according to their whim. This is all supposed to be a natural phenomenon. After saying this, he felt as if he said something important. Natural phenomenon? Could he really say that the raid system was a natural order of things? It's true that it has been 50 years since the monsters and dungeons appeared, so it all seemed natural. But it didn't mean this was normal, did it? Dungeons, monsters, items, and skillbooks. Their origin and makeup were all still mysteries. Then what do we do now? Why do you keep grouping me with you into a we? Surely you're not going to say we don't have anything to do with each other. We weren't a thing to begin with. Then we can start being a thing now. I'm amazed you can turn the conversation completely around to suit you. Is it so weird that I would want us to establish that we're friends? Oh, that. What were you thinking? I wasn't thinking anything. Not true. I think you were thinking something perverted, DD. Stop it. ******. All the level 1 dungeons have vanished. I had wanted to keep racking up the reward points and raise up all of my abilities, but looks like all my plans are out the window. I only had 2 choices left, I guess. Go hunting out in the fields. Venture into the level 2 dungeons. Field hunting was when you hunt outside of the city, kill monsters in the more rural places. These monsters drop items and ores just like monsters in dungeons do. You're probably thinking, then why don't people do this all the time instead of paying admission to hunt in a dungeon? Right? Well, it's true you don't pay the high admission fees, but this method of hunting is also highly inefficient. In a dungeon, monsters have a set skill level, are located in a set area, and appear in a set number. You could count on maybe 3 to 6 monsters appearing in one place. There are times when a high number of monsters, like the time 10 appeared while I hunted with Lim Hyunjun's party, can appear, but this was rare. This means raids in dungeons are on the safe side because of its predictability. Field hunting is unpredictable. Not only are the monsters spread out instead of being in one central area, if you're unlucky, you could even run into a high-level monster. For this reason, only a group of massive raids are done by pros or armies perform field hunting. There are also issues with hunting monsters running around near the city by themselves. Once in a while, monsters appear that look weak on the outside but are actually super high level. There have been a lot of cases where less experienced parties have messed with these type of monsters and were instantly annihilated. So basically, dungeons are the safest option. Do we have to resort to going into a level 2 dungeon? Can we do it with the party members we have now? I guess everyone else could work out, but Glasses Girl, Bei Yongyang, is the problem. Up to Cho Younggu and Han Junsok should be okay. And Manager Kim? If that old man just focused, then he should be able to do just fine. I don't think we have to worry about Yongyang either. Where is this confidence coming from? She's been really practicing a hell of a lot recently. She said that after meeting a certain someone and raising her ability a bit, even practice has become a lot more fun. Yeah? I don't know who this person she might be referring to, but he seems like a great guy. Are you low-key complimenting yourself right now? Oh, that person was me? Duh, I knew it was me. Wow. You're great at feigning ignorance. Bravo. Anyway, at our current level 2 dungeons would be a bit much. We need at least one more person who has level 2 dungeon experience. Do you know anybody? There is someone. He's someone who was part of the leisure groups, so I don't think he'd want to join your party though. Well, such is the life of a porter. How about you? Do you know anyone? 0. Wow. Wasn't your answer too quick? I'm not a friendly person to start with. Even talking with Young Soa like this and being a party head is something that is still hard for me to believe. Let's start with putting up a want ad at the market. We posted up an ad at the hunter market. Wanted. Level 2 hunter. Dungeon clearing experience preferred. Magician preferred. That should be enough. Responses started flowing in. This party has been formed less than a month ago. Do you think it's alright to joining? I searched for their previous posting. I think they're a level 1 party. Seems like they're doing this because of what happened recently. Hell to the no for me. Same here. Apply if you want to die. If you just do a simple search, you can find the names and abilities. Ask after you do at least that much. Wow. If you join this party, you'll 100% die. Everyone be careful. Tap tap tap. Equals not true. We cleared a level 1 dungeon in 2 hours and then decided to go to a level 2 dungeon, okay? We can definitely clear it, so if you don't know anything, just shut up and sit down. Young Soa started typing out of anger. I quickly calmed her down, but this was only after she had already pressed the enter key. Why the hell would you post that up under my id? Sorry. But I was just so annoyed. Can't we report these trolls or something? We can't move. I'll fix it. All those people were just typing all that because they were worried. They know just how dangerous a hunter lifestyle is, so they were just trying to make sure no one was ill-informed. I think. I deleted the last note and waited for a response. I don't know if level 2 hunters became even more valuable with the recent events, but we didn't get even one note of interest. I waited the entire day for a response after sending Soa home, but nothing. After thinking about it for some time, I decided to join a level 2 party by myself. My party members might feel a little betrayed, but safety came first. I couldn't take beginners like them into a dungeon that could very well cost them their lives. It was fairly easy for me to find a level 2 party to join since level 2 hunters were in high demand right now. They didn't even properly check my skill level. The decided location was Gwanak Hills. It was a 10-person party, but, looking at all the people who gathered, I couldn't really put my trust in any of them. Just from one glance I could tell that they were either people who just graduated from level 1 dungeons or people who had the lowest proficiency in their level 2 skill. Let's embark now that everyone is here. The party head was in his mid-30s. Not only did he look like a weasel, but he had a constant sneer on his face that killed my first impression of him instantly. And as expected, an issue arose from the very start. What are you doing? You guys are close-range attackers. So go on and attack at close range. The party head yelled out. The close-range attackers were barely keeping themselves within striking distance and acting like they were attacking. This only happens when attackers do not have any confidence in the amount of damage they can cause. What was worse was that there were way too many close-range attackers. Among the 10 members, including tankers, there were about 7 close-range attackers. They were tangled up together and had zero coordination in attacking. Some were just standing by to see if the person next to them would attack. Jesus. Are you guys retarded? This is pissing me off. This was partially his fault though. All of this should have been anticipated or in the very least resolved properly by the party head, but all he was doing was yelling instead of doing his duties. No, it seemed as if he didn't even know how to properly perform his duties as a party head. I started wondering if he's ever even been a party head before. Fireball. What? Slam. At the party head's command, the magician threw a fireball right into the middle of the chaos. A plume of dust erupted after the huge explosion that ensued. Kook. This crazy. I spit out the dust in my mouth as I hurriedly got up after barely evading the attack. When I looked around, I saw that all the close-range attackers were rolling on the ground. This was the worst. Fireball was a level 2 magic. It had a wide range and caused pretty high damage, so it was a spell that needed to be used with caution. But this damn party head ordered the attack right where all of his party members were fighting. We're screwed. Chapter 33. EU. Hey, shit. Bandage. We need to hurry and move this person. Shit. Why the hell did that psycho throw a fireball? The monsters were taken care of, but the close-range attackers had also taken serious damages as well. 3 had taken some damage and another 3 were in critical condition. Among those who had taken damage was the party head. Those who had taken critical damage were quickly taken outside the dungeon. Luckily there were emergency personnel outside so they would live. You rotten bastard. What the hell was that? One of the close-range attackers who had taken damage yelled out at the party head. If we didn't use the fireball, we would have been in trouble. If you had done your job probably, none of this would have happened. What? Squeeze. When the close-range attacker took hold of the party head's collar, the party head just let out a sigh and said, "Do you just want to stop the raid right here? Yuke. If you want to stop then just hit me and leave." Shit. He let go of the collar and stepped back. We only had 7 people left now. We lost 3 of our members but decided to keep going. Everyone had paid 1,000 each in admission fees. No one was willing to just throw that away. Ironically, with the reduced numbers we were able to hunt more efficiently. Even the party head started leading the members better. When I glanced at his face, I saw that his last mistake didn't concern him in the least. To think that his mistake had caused 3 people to be hauled off to the emergency ward and he was still just fine about it. Surely he didn't do it on purpose. I turned my head and glanced at the magician. He was talking privately with the party head. Based on their body language, it seemed as if they were acquaintances at the very least. I guess that explains why the magician to follow such a reckless command. We started our fight with the orcs. The party head and the 4 close-range attackers fought against the orcs using both offensive and defensive measures. Since I had level 2 armor, I also put in my fair share of attacks whenever the opportunity arose. Mr. Jaeon Sangmin, stop shielding and start attacking, the party head ordered. I nodded my head and went to attack the orc the party head was fighting. I pushed the longsword I held in my right hand straight into the side of the monster. Since it was only a level 1 weapon, it wasn't able to pierce the monster's hide, but it was enough to take it by surprise. In that moment, the party head pressed on even harder. Overwhelmed by both attacks, I was able to plunge my bloody sword into his neck. Plus 200, ha. Are you giving me 200 points since it's a level 2 monster? It's double the normal amount, but I felt a little bit cheated nonetheless because the effort it took to kill this was more than double. Mr. Sangmin, not bad, the party head said. Thank you, no point in spouting unnecessary modesty here. I couldn't flex too much, but I could at least show some confidence. Let's take care of the rest. The raid progressed very slowly. For every fight, we rested over 20 minutes in between. We had injuries at the end of each fight. Ultimately, the party head had to declare that the raid was done after a mere 2 hours since starting. Clap. We are going to stop here because there are so many injuries. I will start the contribution distribution shortly, so everyone please stand by. After 10 minutes, the party head revealed the rankings. Party head was number 1, magician number 2, and I was number 3. He called out everyone else one by one for a total of 7 people. How about the injured? I asked. Since they were injured due to friendly fire, I thought it was only right that they receive some form of compensation from the magician's distribution. The party head glanced at me briefly before saying, I don't know if I must give them any distribution for not even being able to evade friendly fire. It's difficult to dodge that kind of an attack in that situation. But didn't you dodge? You certainly received no damage. I don't think that is any reason to exclude the wounded. Then tell me another reason why I should compensate them. I have no inclination on paying people who didn't deserve it. Isn't that something you should have brought up at the time of recruiting? Mr. Jaeon Sangmin, I'm only saying this being I feel your talent might be wasted otherwise. Mind your own business. If you keep putting your nose in where it doesn't belong to stick up for someone else instead of watching your own back, you won't live too long. Understood. I knew that if I pushed the issue, it would only prove to hurt me. I guess I could also see where he was coming from. You shouldn't go into a level 2 dungeon if you don't have the skills for it. But I also knew that since the level 1 dungeons had disappeared, this was their only option. Even after we had finished the raid, I didn't feel good about it for a long time after. Under normal circumstances, if the contribution distribution didn't end well like today, it would become an issue where the same party would not be able to form again. Injury can happen to anyone, and if someone were cut out of the distribution because of this reason alone, there would be no one willing to join that party again. But it was different now. Because now there were people willing to join any party to be able to go to a level 2 dungeon. Phew. I let out a great big sigh as I went in to check the hunter market job board. I couldn't stop thinking of what that jerk had said. Mind your own business. There was never a point in time that I thought of myself as sympathetic or as a good person. I was as used to lying and pretending as a person could get due to my years as a porter. I didn't have any issues with using people, and I had no problem throwing someone under the bus. But only if the circumstances warranted it. I didn't want to take advantage of someone's misfortune. That was all. I don't know if it might have been deliberate or not, but, at the end of the day, it was a fact that he had retired 3 people and robbed them of their distributions. These were people who probably were not level 2 for a long time. If you took into consideration their hospital bills, they were sure to be debt-ridden for a long time. Maybe that was his plan. To gather desperate people, retire them from the raid early on, and throw them away. Horrible. Click. I went to the wanted ad. That asshole party head had already put out an ad. Maybe it was because he had listed that he was open to all applicants that there were so many people applying. I was contemplating whether or not I should post something when I decided not to. Ring. While looking at all the replies for his ad, my phone rang. I checked to see if it was maybe Young Soa, but it said Song Minhan. It was my broker. Click. Yay. What's up? Hey, didn't you say that you were now a hunter? I can probably say that I told you that several times. Is level 2 okay with you? Now that you mention it, I actually just came back from one just this morning. It wasn't that hard. Really? You haven't even been a hunter that long. Anyway, that's good news. You remember Eam Hyunjun, right? Yep. The team he joined creating a clearing party. Why don't you try applying? Since the level 1 dungeons disappeared, applicants for level 2 dungeons increased like crazy. So it looks like they're getting together a bunch of level 1 hunters to go into level 2 dungeons. Of course, the contribution splits become way smaller because there will be so many people in a party, but it's better than sitting around. Isn't it bad to try to move with such a big party? Just the admission alone is 1,000 per person. I don't know the specifics, but I hear that their procedure will be changing with this new crisis. From what I hear, they have some connections with the dungeon ops people, so they supposedly only pay a max of 10,000 per team. So if they have a team of more than 10 people, the rest can enter a dungeon without paying admission. But if there are so many people, it'll only cause more problems than help. Nah, they're going to Baeksapyeong. Ah, if it's there then. Baeksapyeong dungeon wasn't in the city but in a rural area. It was a 2-level dungeon known for its wide open space that could fit several dozen people with no problem. I'll give you their number, so call them and check it out. It's fine if I bring a couple more people with me, right? Sure. They'll be recruiting based on tests anyway, so it's better to have more people apply. Thanks for the tip. But what's the referral fee? This is on the house, so shut up. Thank you. I held the phone to my ear and bowed. He couldn't see me, but it was the thought that counts. After hanging up, I hurriedly called all my party members. Time to rock and roll. Chapter 34. You must be alert in places like this because you never know where a monster will pop out from. I said as I got out the car and looked around. My body was aching all over from sitting crammed in a cramped car for over 2 hours. Even if there's a dungeon caretaker nearby? Young Soa asked. I pointed at the surrounding reeds. There are monsters that hide in those. Even if there are caretakers, this is a lot of ground to cover. They can't be at all places at all times. I hear that once in a while they do put fire to the reeds, but that only helps for a moment. Those damn reeds grow back in less than a month. That is fast. Do reeds usually grow that fast? Living organisms near dungeons grow much faster than anywhere else. You know that. Ha. Then does that mean if you live near a dungeon, you'll grow old faster? Young Soa said with wide surprised eyes as she took one step back away from the dungeon. There's no effect on the human body. I've been doing this for a good and long time now and I'm fine. I see, if things grow real fast then farms should do splendidly. I sighed at Young Soa's words. How is it that this girl knows absolutely nothing? The Chinese have already thought of that and are taking advantage of it like crazy. They're now the driving force in agriculture. Then why don't any of the other countries use the same method? Don't belittle it just because it's farming, it actually requires highly advanced technology. If crops are harvested again and again on the same land, the quality of the soil will deplete quite quickly. But in China, they were able to solve this issue in some secret way. I see. Do you really see? Half of it. Anyway, college grads are pretty amazing. How do you know so much? How does knowing this have anything to do with being a college grad? You can search it on the internet easily. It looks like everyone is slowly starting to show up. Han Junsok said. The total number of people due to appear were 31. Eun Hyunjun's team, Mercenary, had Group 1, Group 2, and Group 3, and there were 10 from Group 3 here today. Amongst the new applicants were 6 from my team and 15 other potential recruits. I spotted a familiar full-face helmet in the crowd. This person acted as the overseer of those who appeared today. Seeing his equipment, I could tell he had acquired some serious upgrades from the last time I saw him. Looks to be at least $1 million? It's been a while. I did hear that you would be here today. It seems your equipment did some major improving. Ah, you mean this? This came from joining the team. It's kind of a rental, you could say. If I do well, then it's possible to get even better ones. It's amazing that you are already acting as an overseer when it hasn't been long since you joined the team. It was all luck. I took a couple of tests and received some good marks. Truthfully, this is a sort of test too. It's not an easy thing to control and coordinate more than 30 people, you see. That's true. But how will this work? If we were to be headed by one overseer, it could very well be that we could only go in 10 people at a time. This was something I experienced when I was a part of the Weasels party. I figured that I would group together teams who have good chemistry or fit well with one another. Since you said that you already have a team, you guys can be grouped as is. So it won't be based on positions? Honestly, that would be the best option, but I can't assess a hunter's true ability in a position just yet, so I feel things might run more smoothly with groups who are already familiar with one another's ability. That makes sense. It was true that though we could give our stats to them and have them arrange groups in that manner, stats weren't everything. Think of Manager Kim, for example. He was supposed to be a level 2 magician, but his ability was so unpredictable and volatile depending on his mood that most of the time his skill did not work. And then there's me, the prime example. So it made sense he would group us this way. Better chemistry would bring out a person's best potential. Basically, all of the main attacks will be coming from us. You guys will be our support and will follow our instructions. We were all divided into 5 teams. The 10 Group 3 mercenaries were one team. My members and I were one team. And the 15 leftover people were divided into 3 teams. As soon as we entered Beksapyeong dungeon, we were met with a vast terrain of grasslands. Unlike the surrounding areas of the dungeon that was covered in reeds, this area was overrun with weeds that covered over our feet. The flat terrain allowed us to see the hills and valleys up in the distance. The first monster we met was a lizard man. It was weaker in strength compared to an orc, but it made up for it with its agility and hard as steel scaly skin that was very difficult to pierce. Its weapon of choice, hand-held harpoon. One attack from this was usually fatal. Why did our first monster have to be a lizard man? Hyunjun's face grew dark. In instances where the manpower was plenty but the skills were lower, it was much better to go up against an orc. Orcs tended to use just their strength to overwhelm their opponents, so big groups worked fairly well. However, lizardmen were a different story. They had high defensive power, and a botched attack will just simply bounce off its skin without inflicting any damage. Hyunjun looked to me and said, "Currently, excluding the mercenary team, the only person who can inflict any damage on this guy would probably be you, Mr. Jaeon Sangmin. Everyone else should spread out and try to distract him while Mr. Sangmin goes in for a strike. So, to conclude, you all will be support and distraction, my team and I will be going in head-on, and Mr. Sangmin will deal the blow." After going over the battle plan, we split up and got into position. There were 5 lizardmen in view. The first to move were the only 2 magicians in the group who cast a spell. Manager Kim's sleep spell was able to put one lizardman into slumber while the missionary team's magician had cast another spell, Frenzy, which made another lizardman go crazy. I had heard that sometimes spells may rub off on just one portion of a monster, but this was the first time I saw it with my own eyes. 3 of the remaining lizardmen were rooted to the stop as their feet have fallen asleep. Hyunjun wordlessly made finger gestures to signal the dealers to begin their attack. 5 members of the mercenary team collectively shot out arrows and spells. Pa pa pang. I saw a magic missile among one of the spells. It seemed there was a member of that team who also used that type of spell. SSSSSSSs. I could hear the angry slithering sound characteristic or lizardmen at the same time. 3 magic missiles flew one after the other to hit that same monster. It went down in a heap. I guess it was a level 1 missile. Even with a low-level spell, you are still able to bring down a higher-level monster if you have weakened or pierced its skin beforehand. I kept hearing the sound of level 1 arrows bouncing off the lizardmen's armor. Of the 5 monsters, one was still asleep and the other was caught up in a craze and attacking one of the remaining 3 monsters. Of the 3 monsters unable to move about freely, one of them had been hit with the magic missiles and was out of commission. Hyunjun ran toward the last lizardman that was still cognizant of what was going on and pushed it back with his shield. Slam. Though it was similar in size with Hyunjun, the lizardman grew significantly off balance and teared. Immediately, the close-range attackers of the missionary team rushed to its side. "Mr. Jaeon Sangmin, get that other one." "Got it." I sprinted toward the monster Hyunjun was pointing at. The lizardman that had been hit by the missiles was back up and was running toward Hyunjun. 2 arrows whistled through the air toward that monster. It was Han Junsok and Bae Yongyang. They couldn't inflict any damage but they could distract it. The lizardman turned to look my way. As I closed the distance, the harpoon came flying at me with frightening force and speed. I barely dodged it as I drew my longsword and stabbed out. Force is the product of mass times acceleration. This meant the mass of me and my armor times a speed of 55 kilometers per second. The lizardman's body flew backwards about 10 steps. That monster was now still. I turned and went to the monster that Hyunjun was fighting. I held it from behind. Right before it could go crazy to try and escape my hold, I stabbed it with my bloody sword in the back of its neck. A green-tinted fluid started spouting out. The sword, indeed, started turning the same color. Weird. Chapter 35. The green blood flowed freely when I twisted the bloody sword to widen the wound. As soon as I plucked out my weapon, Hyunjun cut off its head. Plus 200. Luckily it was already dead before he had done that, so the points still came through. The lizardman I had pushed away earlier started screaming out as it ran in our direction. "Can you do it alone?" Yes. Then I'll leave you to it, Hyunjun said as he left me to tend to the lizard that was now recovering from the frenzy spell. All the mercenary members and 3 other teams followed suit. What? He was taking his entire mercenary team? I get it that he trusted me, but I wouldn't mind if he trusted me a wee bit less and left a couple of his team to back me up. Ah, clash. The lizard man's harpoon and my longsword clashed violently. The monster's harpoon had bounced off even though I was wielding my sword with one hand and he with both hands. In that moment, I swooped in and sliced its neck with my bloody sword. Blood gushed out. I took one step back and stabbed it with the longsword, but it parried my second attack with its harpoon. I want to emphasize that the lizard man was much weaker in physical strength than myself. As soon as I saw an opening in his upper body, I stabbed again into the wound I had made earlier. It grabbed at its neck and fell to its knees. Plus 200, 2 down. Hyunjun's team had also taken care of one lizard and was going up against the remaining 2. I thought about going to help when I saw they could take care of themselves. How about our team rest for a bit? Wow. Sunba Oppa, wow. What, were you always like that? Cho Younggu, who was probably just watching at the sidelines, asked in awe. I guess the equipment is pretty good. It seems like I'm not of any use to you. Just think of it as you're racking up experience and knowledge right now. Even watching will prove to be valuable later on. Okay, I'll try to keep that in mind, Cho Younggu said with a nod of his head. My team and I went and sat down at a small spot to rest while we watched Hyunjun's party finish the hunt. 3 close-range attackers had surrounded one lizard man and was pushing it forcefully all around with their shields. The men standing behind them were stabbing at the lizard man from behind the shields. The monster was trying to defend itself by striking out with its harpoon, but it was woefully struck down by the shields with no effect. Slowly, its scales were coming off with each attack until it finally began to sustain damage. Wow, there's that way of hunting too. I never knew. It's not a beginner play. This was something that was probably practiced a number of times, because something like that could only work with good coordination. Right before the lizard man looked about ready to faint, Hyunjun and the mercenaries backed up to allow the other teams to finish it off. The 3 teams surrounded the lizard just as Hyunjun's team had done and followed suit. The lizard man ultimately succumbed to the attacks. The only monster left was the one still asleep. Long-range attackers, please come forward. As soon as Hyunjun said this, Glasses Girl and Han Junsok hurriedly ran to him. Shortly, we were able to learn what he wanted to do. The level 1 long-range attacks began to rain onto the sleeping lizard man. Arrows and spells showered over the monster. The monster yelled out and woke up, but he was unable to find the cause of the attacks and started to cough up blood before collapsing. But the arrows didn't stop wreaking havoc on the monster's body. Since we were able to prove that level 1 attacks can still sustain damage on level 2 monsters if done in the right way, I hope you take this opportunity to have a bit more confidence in yourselves. You all have the ability to kill these monsters with the right knowledge and experience. Oh, everyone sat around talking to each other with excited faces as we waited for the monsters to evaporate. Everyone's expression went from being full of fear and tension to being filled with confidence and enthusiasm. This was such a 180 from when we had first stepped into the dungeon. So this was the true effect of a good party head. Amazing, isn't he? Manager Kim asked and I nodded in agreement. The more I got to know him, the more he amazed me. He was able to move everyone's hearts with just a few simple words. Finally, there is someone who can appreciate my skills. No, there is no other choice but to acknowledge my ability, I guess. Honestly, if it wasn't for me, this last fight could have become really dangerous. That was what you meant? These people, I mean, no matter how much they may be jealous of me, they should be able to at least compliment me now and again. Must I resort to complimenting myself? Bravo. You have really outdone yourself this time, Manager Kim. I don't need it anymore. I don't want you to compliment me after I asked for it. Manager Kim, you are the best. Oh ho. I said I didn't like that sort of this. When Young Soa started being silly and yelling out compliments, that was when Manager Kim finally started to smile a bit. Han Junsok said, "Who is that person? I don't know myself, really. I had only been in his party just one time. But he was pretty good that time too. It's not just a matter of pretty good. If he can coordinate people like that every time, then I'm sure he would be able to climb to Group 1 in no time. Are you jealous? If I said I wasn't, I'd be lying. Well, as long as we work hard, we should improve a lot too. But it would take us a couple years to get to the next level 1 bet. Who cares if it takes us some years? Just being able to stay a hunter is great in my book." At Cho Younggu's response, Han Junsok laughed and nodded in agreement. Glasses Girl, who had remained quiet this whole, spoke up. Now that I think about it, all of my arrows hit their marks this time. Don't forget that that's because of me. Young Soa yelled out. Speaking of that, how far do you think your buffer's reach is? Her skill was to bring up her comrades' skills and increase their effectiveness. If it had actually raised all of our abilities, over 30 of us, then that would be a hell of a skill. Unfortunately, it seems 5 would be my limit. Not including me. Do you think the reach will increase with time? I think that it is quite possible for me to be able to increase the buff amount. But I also think the more people I include in your reach, the less potent it will be. That makes sense. So if you can raise everyone's ability by X%, then the more people you lend your skill to, the smaller the percentage you will be able to raise each individual's ability. So I guess I should only use my buffer on our teammates for now then. What's your proficiency at right now? It's 2 now. I think that every time I go into a dungeon and use it, it goes up 1 point. Buffer type skills get stronger with increase in proficiency, but I was waiting for something more special to show up since it was a level 0 skill. It's an item. Someone hollered loudly. I got up from my seat and looked toward the sound of the voice. Even though it was a level 2 dungeon, item drops were still a rarity. It looks like Aegis Shield. What's that? It's a level 1 shield. It's made out of leather, so defense ability isn't that great really. Then it's a dud? No, it's not terrible. That shield still has the ability to slow down an enemy. Last I checked, it was selling for about $200,000. Then how much can each person get? Since there's about 31 of us, the price will depend on the distribution contribution, but I'd say about 6,000 per person at least. What? Shit. Jackpot. But there is one problem. What is it? Who the hell is going to buy level 1 equipment right now? Right now, all the level 1 dungeons had disappeared. Of course, this didn't mean it was a totally useless thing, but you could expect that the demand for it would have reduced considerably. If there isn't anyone willing to buy it, we would be lucky to sell it for even half its regular price. Nonetheless, this was still a considerable success. Not only did we get through the rest of the dungeon with some ease, we had minimal injuries and even lucked out on an item. I had also gotten to rack up some reward points. And you know what? We even had another item drop later on. What the hell? Again? Young Soa yelled out excitedly. I was probably equally excited and shocked. In all my years of portering, I had never heard of 2 items dropping in one raid. Something was afoot. Yep. Homebrew Audiobooks hopes you enjoyed this program. Stay tuned for future chapters.